Hi, Bethy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much, Christa. I was so excited to be on your show. You've done such an amazing job, and I was so excited when I got your invitation. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Just saying before we started, I was randomly on TikTok one day scrolling and I was like, is that Bethy? Because everyone that's listening, we worked together years ago. We just discovered it was 8 years ago now that we worked together. And it was one of those where like we got along so well when we worked together, but then we kind of just like went different directions. And then I will say it, toxic work environment.
Mhm.
We probably weren't very happy there. I know I wasn't. So it's so happy to be like reconnected and hear that you work in the wedding space, which was so cool. I was like, what? So before I yap too much, can you just introduce yourself and what you do, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Krista, again. Life is just full of circles, and you just don't know where you end up. My name is Bethlehem Abdissa, but people call me Bethy. I was born and raised in Ethiopia. I came here to the United States about 15 years ago. Just a summary of who I am. I was in finance and I was interning, and Krista and I were working in the same company when I was an intern when I was going to grad school. So I thought I was going to end up on Wall Street, making money. I ended up in corporate America for a while and I was like, this ain't for me. And I just was like, I can't do it anymore. And I've done people's weddings just for fun because I have a bubbly personality and people kind of like are drawn to that and they wanted me to do their weddings. So I was like, you know what, why not take this a little bit more seriously? So in 2022, I started a wedding business and one of my friends was really good at that as well. So she's done corporate events and we linked up together. And I live in Minnesota, used to live in the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia. So we both linked up and decided to start our own business, women-owned business. And so now it's our third year being in a business, and we've been doing a lot of weddings, exciting, exciting weddings. I fumbled on your TikTok randomly as well. And I saw that you were party planning and all the skits you were doing. I was like, are people around the world the same from different cultures? It's the same stories, and I was drawn to it. And I'm so happy to see you very successful in your channel and just reaching out to a lot of audience, to people sharing their stories. It's such a beautiful space, and you're very talented. Not just in your horn, you're very talented to be able to play all those parts. It takes a lot of taking in that space, and I appreciate all you've done so far. So to just summarize, that's who I am.
Uh,
But yeah, and I do a lot of things. I do a lot of makeup stuff. So if you go to my channel, a lot of the stuff is all over the place. But yeah, I'm a creative person.
yeah, I have to say, like, when you said bubbly personality, like, you like brighten up any room. And I'm so happy to see that you found your passion and what you enjoy doing because it's so true. When you are in the wrong position or the wrong career, it can suck out your soul. And so it's so exciting seeing your content and seeing all the things you're doing because it's just brought out your brightness even more. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you so
so
much, Krista.
yeah, it's so awesome to reconnect. And so we were kind of talking before we came on about crazy wedding stories or hot takes. I mean, you see a lot of stuff firsthand. You said like all over the world, different cultures. What's like your firsthand experience when it comes to weddings? Do any like crazy stories off the bat come to your mind that you've kind of experienced that you've kind of had to help with as a wedding planner?
Wow. Even though I told you like a few stories where it's the normal mother-in-law kind of type of relationships, I am going back and thinking about the first few weddings I've done. And it was a very sophisticated wedding because of the cultural aspects of the wedding. There were things that were cultural that needed to happen in the morning. There's an afternoon. It was a very long day, 16 hours, okay, to be exact. So we were trying to get everything done because first of all we wanted our reputation to be the fact that like we're serious about keeping time, and that we wanted to change the cultural expectations because a lot of East African, or I would say even African weddings in general that I've experienced as a guest before, are known to be late. Like if you say 7 o'clock, it really means nine. You don't go there till nine. So a lot of our work was like educating people, hey, we need to start on time. And I remember we were very vigilant about making sure we were the first Ethiopian wedding planners that did that. And so the first wedding we did, I remember we were so on time that the groom was like, it's rude to be on time. And I was like, I'm sorry. We're like trying to get things done and move simple like the parts along, and he's like, we can't really be on time. Like it's rude. I didn't know how to go from there because the whole reason that we were hired was to. That's literally what a wedding
Get things
planner
going.
does.
Yeah.
We keep time and we organize everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it be after this because I was like, I don't want it to seem like it's my wedding and I care. So I'm like, I'm just gonna let it go. And instances like that and just managing different families' expectation, while because there's less respect for the career, for the profession in most African like environments, you have to fight to kind of be like, hey, you need to do this way. And somebody's gonna insult you. I've gotten so many insults. I've gotten so many glares. It's a lot of like, first, the educational aspect of it was high, but there's one wedding in particular where few days before the wedding, the bride calls me and I'm parking by my door trying to get inside. But when you start a business, you were very accessible over the phone. And so I was very accessible. And
Mhm.
she would call me random times. And I'm telling you, random times, sometimes 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yeah, but that's on me because I didn't know how to set boundaries, to be honest. But she calls me, she's like, his family's coming in from out of town, and I would plan to clean the house today, but he wants to host a party. And I was like, okay, what's the problem? And she's like, well, I want the house cleaned and I don't want anybody to do parties together. I was like, okay. And she's like, I don't know if this is a right decision for me. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my
Marry
God.
him
Yeah, because
because of that?
I think it kind of brought in the expectations of family and the compromise.
Mm.
She probably never thought that would happen because they live in different states. And maybe that really opened up her eyes to really like, oh my God, I might actually need to be with this family forever. I don't know if that's the case. And the thing is, like, I know I have a way with people, but like, I don't know if I should be giving you therapy advice at this moment. But I was like, you know what? I just gotta do what I gotta do because it's a few days away and I have to have a wedding. So, in a relationship, there's compromise. Maybe you can schedule it in a way where you're using plastic plates. I'm not kidding you. I'm going through the details of how she can still let him have his party with his family while still being able to clean the house and prepare the house for the event. I gave her a schedule. You still have 2 days. Let him have the party tomorrow and then you can clean on Friday. I'm not joking.
I hope you were charging overtime.
No, that's the thing. How do you even do that? It's almost like the access is so high after you get hired. That's something I'm trying to incorporate now because I'm trying to draw boundaries, but it's almost like they feel like you're their person and you're that person that they come to. I'm still yet to discover what that looks like, but majority of my job is like therapy. And that's what I'll tell you. Like it's therapy saying, hey, in a marriage, this happens. And I just got divorced maybe 8 months after that happened. So for me to give marriage advice was weird. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to do it.
You're like, we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
those are some of the stories.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with cell phones too. It's like this day and age, people can access you at any point. So we also feel like, oh, they can call me or they can text me, so I have to respond. And I feel like it's like a constant thing of being like, okay, just because I have a phone and I can be accessed
Hmm.
doesn't mean I should allow access at all points. And
Yeah.
that's a good like conversation about boundaries. The job that we work together, that's I think what kind of did me in with teaching me about boundaries, especially with when it comes to work because that said boss, it would be like a Sunday afternoon. I'd be with my family and I'd get a text. And it wouldn't be just like, hope you're having a good weekend. Of course not. It'd be like, why didn't you do this? You need to do this. And it would like, my heart would be pounding. So then I would have such anxiety on the weekends. 'Cause I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'd be on vacation. I'd get a text from him and all this crazy stuff. And I was just like, yes, yes, yes. Because growing up, I was a people pleaser. Yes, girl. So I would say yes to everything. And then you kind of realize if I'm saying yes to everyone, like I'm that famous quote, like I'm saying no to myself. But it's
Yeah.
hard, especially in a profession of wedding planner. You want them to trust you. You want them to look at you as that point of contact. How do you be accessible, but not too accessible to where you're like, it's take eating into your own
Yeah,
personal time.
exactly. And I think that's still something I'm navigating, but I think I do this like assessment of the person before now. when we were chatting and figuring out if we are a match, because I've understood that not all money is good money. I had a bride, I kid you not, she would WhatsApp message me at midnight. And the thing is, I have ADHD, so if I don't respond right away, I probably won't respond until 3, 4 days. That's just the type of person I am.
Yeah.
So I would respond. And then at the end, I had to draw a boundary. I was like, hey, you can only contact me, you can only access me during these hours. After that, it will have to wait another 24 hours. And it really is uncomfortable, but to have these conversations has made me like a better wedding planner, a better even business person, because now I get to choose the person I work with. Not every business that comes to me is worth having.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's like with kind of how you get interviewed by your client at the same time. You guys are like interviewing each other to make sure you're the right match. Because, yeah, it's like you don't want to just say yes to anybody. You want to make sure it's a good fit. You're going to fit all their needs. They're going to work well with your schedule or how you do things as well, for sure. Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things where it's like you want to like help and you want to do a good job. We're used to just being like, okay, I'll say yes. But then it's like what you said, when we set boundaries, and this goes for all conversations, a lot of the stories that we talk about, when you set boundaries, you're not saying no to everybody and being the mean person. You're actually just protecting your peace a little bit and
Yeah.
you're allowing yourself to approach situations more peacefully and happily. I feel like in my experience, because then you're not just dreaded by, oh, this person nonstop contacts me. You're like, oh, I'm excited to work with this person, or I'm excited because I work with them on this point. It's protecting your peace.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to actually spell it out because, for instance, our day of coordinator package says 30 days before your wedding, you'll have access to us. Basically, we start the coordinating where you hand us off the hard work you've done. It's like your stress free months. And I have to spell it out and say, this does not mean that those 30 days I become 100% and I stress. I probably will have another wedding that I'm working on. So it's like, I just have to spell it out and say, this means that you can contact me during business hours from this time to this time. Because first it was just like anytime they would call me, can we set a meeting? Can we meet now? Can we meet now? And there is just no consideration for this person. It has a business or has a life, or even like is attending to other brides and grooms. There's no shed light.
The
Like,
only.
yeah, there's nothing they see but themselves. So it's like I have to spell it out. We do other weddings as well. I hate doing that, but it's also like take some responsibility for yourself, but also be in a position where when I show up 100%. And when I am setting up a meeting for 2 hours, those 2 hours is yours and nothing else, rather than me giving you scrapes or leftovers.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great point. Craving more wedding drama? Join my wedding party Patreon for Here Comes the Drama After Dark. Each month, we dive into juicy confessions, wedding 911 advice, and the spiciest hot takes. And of course, we always end with a wild wedding story reacting in real time. From bridesmaids to groomsmen, mother-in-law madness to photographer fails, every month has a new theme. Patreon members get early access to all regular episodes and an exclusive chat to discuss the drama. Don't just hear the drama, be a part of it. Join now. So let's talk about some wedding hot takes. And I get some that are sent to me from time to time, but it's just, I just kind of want to get your opinion on these. Okay, so should couples be expected to write personal vows or are traditional ones just fine?
I think traditional ones are just fine. For me, it's more simplicity. Like if they want to do their personal vows, some personal vows needs to be kept personal. It's almost like you're pouring out your heart to the entire congregation, whoever is in the wedding, where you could just keep it for your video. Maybe do like what I suggest couples do is if they have a videographer, great, have that be part of your video where you can read it to each other without having it all guts out on ceremony.
Mm.
I have been loving more and more 10 to 15 minute ceremonies because it gets to the point the person that marries them, I would say, is someone who knows them. That's also you can tell by the wedding. If they just picked a random person versus a person who knows both of them or has spent time to get to know the couple before the wedding, I've had couples that got efficient over from the knot. And I can tell. You don't have to say anything because it's just so dry. There's no humor or even knowing the couples into it. So there's no creativity. It can
Mhm.
be 10, 15 minutes of just, these are the couple, we love your love, get together, and then do the traditional vows, rings, and everything. So I lean towards more traditional vows, but still have personal vows maybe to
Yeah.
yourself. Or, yeah, more,
I have to
maybe,
tell you, we got ours on the nut and she was so great. But
yeah,
I think we got really lucky
yeah.
because they're not all great. We interviewed a few and we were supposed to have my uncle do it because he like married all the cousins in the family. But last minute he wasn't able to do it. And so we found ours on the nut and she was marvelous. But we met with her a lot to
Yeah.
customize everything. I think we met with her probably 2 or 3 times and we each wrote our own vows, but then she looked them over and made sure they matched up because you don't want someone that has like this super long one, then someone else has 2 sentences. So she like matched them and worked with each of us to get them aligned. But
I love
I think we
that.
got lucky. We even had friends that were at our wedding end up using her because they loved her.
Wow, that's
But
amazing.
but yeah, for our first pick was someone that we knew. But it
Okay,
didn't work.
yeah,
We'd be like, we rather would have someone that has experience if we couldn't get someone that we knew.
I agree. And I think there's just the personal vows are, I don't know, maybe I don't think it's the right time or space for that kind of vulnerability. I guess maybe I'm just a bit weird on that, but I'm the type of person that says, what makes you happy? What really makes you happy? How can we make it work? But personal preference would be that we do traditional vows because most people are actually like, I don't know if you were already married, but most people are already married or they're just doing celebrations, though, at least the ones I've done, and then they're just doing it for the day.
Right. No, totally agree. So, what is your opinion on uninviting guests for different reasons? Like, let's say your budget changes or something happens with a guest that you were going to have come. Do you agree with uninviting people?
If you asked me this before, and I mean before I started this business, because I was married before, right? I would say no, I'm a people pleaser. There's no way I would not invite all 700 of my parents' friends. Like,
Oh my God.
you know,
700?
truly, like,
Oh,
even though my wedding was like 300 people and it was during COVID. So now that I am thinking of possibly getting married to someone again, I am only inviting people that I know, not just like know, are gonna be in our lives or are gonna be somehow in our future. And I am not shaky about their perceptions towards me or my relationship or anything like that. I'm very harsh on cutting off people now. So I would uninvite people if I feel a certain way. I would cut off even bridesmaids, groomsmen.
there's
If
no telling.
yeah, the thing is like I don't want to keep pleasing, or if it takes away from the bride's or the groom's happiness just to please somebody, you're spending money on it. They're
Mhm.
eating your food, they're sitting on the chair you paid for. I hope to God those are the people that you want to see. I don't want my mood to change if I'm seeing somebody and my face is just gonna change because they're there. I want to 100% protect the presence that I'm in. I have a good example. I had a bride last year where a month before her wedding, a maid of honor was acting weird. She was acting weird. And she said, "Hey, Bethy, my maid of honor is acting weird. She's doing this, she's doing that, she's doing this." And normally, I'm not going to give you advice. I don't give unsolicited advice at all because I'm very careful. I don't want them to come back and be like, "You told me, da 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 da."
Yeah.
You know? So I don't give unsolicited advice. And I said, oh, okay, just keep an eye out for her. Make sure your happiness comes first and just protect your peace. And then a week or two after that, I think something else happened that aggravated the situation between her and her maid of honor. And this is a person she's known like 20, 30 years. So yeah, it's a long, long time. But she cut her off. She wasn't the part of the bridal party anymore. And she had one less person on her side, even though her groom had one more person.
Wow. So
Yeah.
things just felt weird, or there were specific things that she did that were questionable?
Very shady. Very shady behavior. Just
Oh,
wasn't supportive. Her happiness wasn't making her happy. Maybe some people internalize it. If they're not married and somebody else is married, I see it
jealousy
all
or
the time. I see it all the time, especially bridesmaids. They're so weird. So every time a bride, when I do my consultation and she says, I don't have bridesmaids, I'm like, good for you. Not necessarily because that's always the case, but especially if you have more than three or four, there's gonna be one bad apple. There's just gonna one weird person that's gonna maybe try to control things or is feeling insecure, some sort of drama. So less drama for me, less work for me. So I always say if you have bridesmaids, make sure they're the people, like I said, it goes both ways, right? Not just guests, but your bridal party needs to be 100% on your side.
Yeah, I've been in lots of weddings. I would say usually the bachelorette party, I feel like brings up a lot of drama or planning stuff. There's usually a few. I've definitely seen the drama. Luckily, I haven't been in a wedding where like on the wedding day there's drama that I can think of. Yeah, I blocked something out. I don't know, but it's a lot with a lot of girls, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure to have people in the wedding that you wouldn't necessarily. A lot of the stories I get sent to me is like parents were like, you have to have your sister in the wedding when they're not close, or you have to have your childhood friend that they grew up with, and they're like, I'm not really close with them anymore. So they feel this pressure to like appease their parents and have someone in that doesn't really like fit in the mix or is not like a good person, maybe. And that kind of causes some
Yeah.
awkwardness.
Especially coming from, for me, our background, a lot of the Ethiopian, Eritrean, these kinds of weddings are religious by nature. There's some sort of religiousness aspect to it, but maybe the bride and groom are not that religious. And
Mhm.
so they would have a wedding that really says nothing about them just because they want to appease their family, their grandparents. They don't want to disappoint anybody. So you can see that happening because it's just part of the culture. So I'm like, but then they would have a separate party by themselves. So it's just more money for people you probably won't even see again. You probably don't even know their names.
Yeah.
But that's just
Oh.
usually the case.
I've
Um,
definitely heard of that happening with a couple people I've heard of having a separate wedding because they wanted the one that would appease their parents, and then they had a separate one. In case they're listening, I don't want to say who it is, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, it definitely happens. Okay, I want to jump into this week's blind reaction, I should say. So these are wedding submissions that people send me. I've not read it yet. I just kind of grabbed them from the document, and so we'll kind of see what happens. Feel free to stop me at any time and react, or I'll kind of just like pause here and there. Here we go. Let's see what we got. Okay. My husband and I had been together for 8 years when we got engaged. We were childhood sweethearts, getting together at 17 and 18. So no one was surprised when we announced it. Everyone knew it was coming and was so excited for us. We couldn't wait to start planning. We set our wedding date for 3 years later to save money and avoid conflicts with other family and friends' weddings that we already knew about. Everything was going great until it came time to ask the bridal party. Here we go. It's like we knew. I swear I did not know this was about.
hey, I predicted it. Come on, tell me.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. You're like, I warned you guys. I warned you.
I told you.
For context, I already knew my husband's younger sister, Emily, before I even knew him. Names have been changed. We were in the same class in high school, had mutual friends, and were friendly. However, when I had started dating her brother, she was furious. She made us feel like the worst people in the world, even screaming at us in public just because we held hands while walking together. Ooh, okay. Another bit of context, we're Irish, and bridal parties here are typically much smaller than in the US. Most couples have two or three bridesmaids and the same number of groomsmen, sometimes only one of each. The bride and groom also cover all expenses for the bridal party, including attire, shoes, hair, makeup, and a thank you gift. So it's common to choose people you're closest to. For my bridesmaids, I wanted my best friend of 15 years to be my maid of honor. My cousin, who's just 20 days younger than me and has been my best friend my whole life, and my college best friend, who I was a bridesmaid for the year before. To give more context, my maid of honor lives in the UK, my cousin lives in Japan, and my college best friend is 40 minutes away. I'm getting into specifics here. This could be anybody, though, guys.
I know.
I was so excited to ask them. I made personalized cards with pictures of us through the years, wrote heartfelt messages, and included a team bride sash. I mailed the two cards overseas and planned to give the third in person since it was my only chance to experience that moment. One evening, we were discussing wedding plans with my husband's family, something we often did, as both families had been supportive up until this point. I mentioned we were visiting my college friend to ask her to be in the wedding party, and my husband was asking her husband to be a groomsman. That's when everything went south. Oh my gosh. It literally is like we predicted this story. That was so
Told
weird.
you. I told you. Go ahead. Excited.
I know. Emily completely lost it. She started yelling, insisting it was unfair that she wasn't included because she was his sister and had gone to school with me. She also claimed it was wrong to not have any family in my bridal party. For reference, my husband wasn't asking my brother either, because in Ireland it's not expected unless you're extremely close. She threw a full tantrum, stomping her feet like a child, shouting at us and demanding to be a bridesmaid. Could you imagine demanding to be someone's bridesmaid? Like, my thing is, if they don't ask me, that's fine. Like, they have a different vision. I'm not gonna demand because at that point, it'd be so weird then to be in the wedding because you're just there
Yeah,
because you demanded.
you're not wanted. It's almost like you broke into somebody's house and you're eating food. It's weird. Why would you even be excited? But we already knew this was gonna go left anyway. I'm excited how this ends. Like,
Yes, I know. There was so much entitlement, and she said some truly nasty things. We explained our choices, and I pointed out that if I asked her, I would also have to ask my husband's two other sisters. Wait, he didn't even mention that he has two other sisters. That'd be three more people. And we simply couldn't afford a six-person bridal party. His mom tried to calm things down, but we ended up leaving. I felt awful. I was being made out to be a terrible person. So they don't even mention the fact that he has three sisters, and this sister's demanding that she's in it. And it's not like all the other two sisters were in there and you were excluded. Like no sisters were in there.
my psychology antenna is flying off the radar right now because it feels like she's always been jealous or wants to outshine the brother or some. I'll tell you, I've seen this multiple times. Some sisters have weird attachments to their brother.
Mm,
A lot of these types of things happen, especially from my background. I've seen it even when I was young. They would have weird attachments to their brother as if their brother is their own husband. I'm not trying to throw out anything that's weird, but if they have some sort of weird attachment when an outside person comes in and takes or has his attention, maybe they were already very too close to a point where it's not normal, that now his attention is deviated towards this woman. And now instead of having self awareness and saying, hey, my brother has his own life and now I have to figure out my own life, what they tend
mm,
to do is exert that neediness and very codependency on the woman because she's the outside, she's the enemy.
right.
So I've seen things like
Ah,
this all the time and they would act weird. The outbursts, these things are just almost like it's the outside depiction of what's actually going on in the inside. She's just not well. She's not okay.
yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of a story. I did a skit on it actually, and it's one of a really popular one. They were twins. It was a boy and girl twin set. And when he was getting married, they decided they were each gonna have one or something in the wedding. And the twin sister was like, well, I'm walking him down the aisle. And they're like, well, no, we're not gonna have him walk down the aisle. She's like, well, I'm his best man. And she like tried so hard up until she found out what dress the maid of honor was wearing and bought the same one. It was this crazy thing, and she would not let it go. And this was a story someone sent to me, like, I don't even know, probably over a year, almost 2 years ago now. And that was the first I'd like heard something like that. And the bride sent it, and she was so protective over her brother, saying like she needed this part in the wedding because she was his twin sister. And
Yeah.
she was just as important as the maid of honor and as the bride. And it was like she could not comprehend that she was not the bride and marrying her brother.
Yeah, no, it's so funny you said that because they feel like they're owed something because she probably introduced them. Or I was there when this happened. I'm sure if she has her own boyfriend, her own husband, she would not even be that obsessed. But there is almost a jealousy of, I was there when it happened, but it didn't happen for me. Now I'm watching you grow and move on into this relationship. She
Yeah.
feels like she's being abandoned.
Yeah, it's like the toxic mother-in-law, but instead sister-in-law, where they're kind of like, don't leave me. I deserve this as much as you do, so bring me along for the ride kind of thing.
Yeah. Make me a bridesmaid is not because I love you so much, the bride. It's not like, oh, I want to stand next to you and you're marrying
Support
a
you.
gonna like it's not coming from I want to support you. It's like somehow, some way my presence is gonna be known and I'm not leaving. Whatever union you guys are building now, I'm gonna be there. Right? Like even
Yes.
like going forward, if they had a child together, that person's gonna be problematic.
Yes. I always think about that too. I'm like, Thank God I have amazing in-laws and I get along with my sister-in-laws and all that. Because I hear these stories and I'm like, people like that are like, I'm moving in next door. Do you have a spare bedroom? I'm moving. Like they don't understand the boundaries of no, this is a new family he's starting. Like, let's have a
Yeah.
break there.
No, I'll be honest, even my brother and I were very close, super close, 1 year and 9 months apart. And when he introduced me to his wife, before she became his wife, I knew she was going to be his wife. Something in me told me it's not like anybody else that he's introduced me before. I didn't care about them. But this
Mhm.
one, when I met her, my heart told me she was going to be his wife. I had a moment of, damn, I'm not going to have that access like I used to before. It lasted 2 months, that feeling though. I was like, oh my gosh. But then now, I think I love her more than I love him. Genuinely, I tell him that too. Even chit chatting and I see them, I'm always on her side. I'm always giving him a hard time. But I understood that, like, yes, it feels weird to let go of somebody. He's my younger brother. So it's like who you were attached to your whole life. I understand that because I felt it. But there's also like this, he's building his own life. And
Yes.
I'm support him in any way I can. And for me, it was letting him go, letting
Mhm.
him make those decisions and living his own life.
Yeah. And now you have a new sister, which is like so
Yeah. Oh
cool.
my God, she's the best. I would trade him for her. Like that's how I feel.
I love that. Well, yeah, and it's like people in the stories like don't realize is you're just gonna make it harder for everyone to have a relationship with you
Yeah.
because you're not gonna make it, the brother's not gonna want to hang out with you if you don't like his wife or you make a stickler about everything. And then it just makes everything more uncomfortable. But if you supported him, got along, then they would want to invite you to more things and they'd want you to be around and you and the wife would have a good relationship. And it's hard they don't see it like that.
She would probably have made her bridesmaid. I mean, that's 7 years they've dated, right? If she wasn't weird, in 7 years, you could have built a beautiful bond with the sister, with the new wife, where you could actually be a bridesmaid, not actually intrude into a relationship, but she could have invited you in, and because you would have probably been close to her. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, your feelings are meant to be felt. That's what I say all the time. Your feelings, whatever feeling you have, if you feel abandoned, if you feel like you're left out, whatever, your feelings are meant to be felt, but your feelings shouldn't dictate your actions. Like, I feel abandoned, therefore I'm going to throw a fuss and make everybody miserable. No, I feel abandoned, therefore this is my responsibility to take my own feelings into control and understand that people move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you said earlier that as a wedding planner, you feel like a therapist. I feel like you're a therapist. That was such good advice. I'm like, I need therapy time with Bethy.
I'm telling you, the more I spend with people, time with people, and I understand how they're thinking, how they're talking, some skills are just coming into, I don't know. Maybe I need to go to therapy school and just have some sort of certification for people. But truly,
Yeah.
I understand feelings. Like, I'm not dismissing the fact that, but her outer reactions are just saying, I'm needy and I need people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see what we got here next. So she made her feel like she was a terrible person. Because of the tension, we decided to hold off on officially asking my third bridesmaid. I didn't want to make things worse by having someone post about it on social media. That's very considerate, which might further upset Emily. 3 days later, after feeling nothing but anxiety and frustration, my mother-in-law called and asked us to come over to talk things through. We agreed and went that evening. Once again, I explained that the bride and groom cover all the bridal party expenses, so it's important to choose people you love and feel comfortable around. I had already decided I wouldn't cave to Emily's demands, especially after how disrespectful she had been. Not just about this, but from the very beginning of our relationship. I understood that she was upset, but that was no excuse for being rude and hurtful. I stood my ground even when she yelled at me. I told her that her behavior was only making me more certain of my decision. Good for her. I got upset and snapped a little, but I was exhausted from the emotional toll of it all. My husband, thankfully, was fully on my side. He backed me up, stood up for me when his sister was being nasty, and didn't let her steamroll the situation. Big credit to him. It's never easy to stand up to family. We left. I felt horrible and like I had done something wrong. In the end, because I hate conflict and wanted to avoid more drama, I never asked my college best friend to be my bridesmaid. I just had to. It's my one regret from my wedding, even almost 2 years later. That makes me so sad because she was really firm. I love that she was firm and was like, I'm not giving in to the sister. But then to never ask the third person because she was like, this is what blew up the whole situation. That's what I feel so sad for her.
That is very sad because maybe the best friend is understanding. Like, I'm hoping she is, but at the same time, I would say weddings, and when you're doing weddings or you're going through a hard time, like a funeral, some devastating things, those are the times where you see people's true colors. Like, genuinely, you will see people who are truly happy for you, who are not happy for you, people who would be there for you, and vice versa. I don't know. For me, when there are weddings, my ex friends, now they're ex friends because their wedding situation, what happened during their wedding, how they were treating me as a person, that really cemented our relationship. I don't know if the best friend is able to move forward from that, even though I can understand the bride's decision because she's going into this family and this family is probably going to be with her forever. And that's the idea. Like, you're building, she was looking forward and made a decision based on that. But I think the harder thing to do would have been drawing that boundary and maybe cutting that sister off. That would have been the hardest thing to do than really like at the expense of a probable friendship that she lost, or there's probably some difference.
Yeah, it sounds to me too, like in the beginning, that I think she said she's in Ireland, so it's very common to have only one or two sometimes. So it sounds like maybe she was already not stretching it, but like with three was her number. So hopefully the college best friend just never thought anything of it because it's normal. But what does suck is that that seemed like the friend that was closest to her, location-wise closest to her. And she seemed most excited because she's gonna be able to experience asking her and her being like, yes. So it's like happy on one side. She had that boundary. But yeah, I'm curious, like we were saying, it's only gonna get worse with someone like that because I doubt someone like that's gonna learn their lesson. It's good that she didn't cave, but still, she's gonna demand to be a part of certain things or try to. If they have kids or if they buy a house or whatever that looks like for them, it's like, who knows how she's gonna act.
One thing you mentioned that I wanted to preface is the bride covering the cost for the bridesmaids is actually also not in America, not the weddings in America, but the weddings back home in Ethiopia and Eritrea. You, as a bride and groom, you're going to ask people to be your bridesmaids and groomsmen. You cover all their costs. So that's something
Mm.
also in our culture that is normal back home. And then when you come here, you're like, people are like, we're in America now. You got to do it the American way. And take care of your expenses, take care of your stuff. So I can understand why she wanted to pick that. I think moving forward, if their boundaries is not gonna be stronger than what it was, like even the comfort that this person has to even voice themselves like that is what scares me, right? There's some sort of maybe even the way that person grew up, this sister,
Mm.
right? The way she grew up, they've allowed so many things unchecked for her to feel comfortable enough to say this to an outsider, her brother's wife. She must have felt so comfortable saying it. She must have felt like she always gets her own
And
way.
got her way.
So it's learned behavior. It's not just something she just brought up like at one moment. So it's like the family has been letting this go far enough where it got to this point. But I hope the husband, and I would always say this, I always say this, even when I talk to my brother, even when I talk to any grooms, I always say, if you do not draw the line, if you do not say, this is the new family you're protecting and this is the new family you're building, and your family, your mom, your dad, your sister, whatever, do not see that message sent, there's always going to be an overstep. She's gonna have a child, and the sister is gonna tell her, oh, shouldn't you be feeding it this way? Shouldn't you be doing it this way? As the diapers, da da da, like the snarky comments, like an unhealthy environment where you can both just grow together and make mistakes together and raise that child. It will always be there's a nagging voice outside, and that part is going to be hard. Maybe they need a year or two apart from this person, and I'm serious about that. When
Mhm.
it comes to boundaries, I've gotten really strict because of all the mistakes and things I did in my past in my personal life, that I'm like, you
Mhm.
need to really cement that into people's minds for you
Right.
to have a peaceful life.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so refreshing once you do set a boundary and you realize, hey, I'm not mean for saying no to something. I was just protecting blah blah blah. Like even if it's something as simple as I'm not gonna respond to a text after 8 p.m. at night. I'm just not
Yeah.
gonna do it. Something like that. You're like, oh, that felt kind of good. I wasn't at just someone's beck and call. Even if it was like a very harmless text or just friendly text, you're just like, no, I'm giving space. you kind of realize, like, okay, I'm not being mean. We're told this narrative that if we say no to someone, we're mean. And I don't know where that comes from. If it's a
Yeah.
people pleaser thing or if we're taught as like young girls, I don't know what that is. But yeah, I totally agree. Everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, this is so therapeutic. Oh, good.
You know, the way I frame boundaries is like when I set boundaries with people or I set boundaries with my clients, I always say, as much as it is for me as it is for you. And
Mhm.
you be confused and say, what? This feels like you're shutting me out, right? This feels like you're drawing a line to keep me away from that line. But it's also like I'm setting expectations that I can fulfill. It's
Yes.
basically saying, this is what I can do. Therefore, the things that I can't do, you figure it out on your own because now I'm not enabling you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not just doing the things and saying yes to every call. Now you have to maybe figure out your emotions by yourself.
Mm.
Now maybe you need to throw that tantrum by yourself in an empty room instead of calling me. Maybe you'll take a breather before you take an action or take responsibility for the things that you need to do. And it doesn't feel like good at the moment, right? When I'm setting that line, it doesn't feel good. But most of the times, people are like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you for saying no to me. And I even tell it to my friends. I'm like, please say no to me. If you need to take time instead of picking up my phone call and having a conversation, say no to me because I will be happy that you're spending that time taking care of yourself. That's the
Hmm.
type of people you want in your life where they appreciate that you saying no doesn't mean rejection. It just means that they're taking care of more things that are priority at that moment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And in regards to these kind of stories where someone is constantly overstepping and showing no respect, you need to put that firm boundary. And you might need to be a little mean back and be like, this is our boundary.
Yeah.
We're taking time away until you can figure it out. So my hope is that this couple was able to do that. And maybe the sister, fingers crossed, learned from
Fingers
it.
crossed, has some self-awareness or I don't know, a shot, something to calm her down,
Yes.
so that she is focused on her own life and figure out why maybe internally for some people it's actually jealousy. You just don't know where these feelings come from. Like it's
Mhm.
very weird. They show up as something else, but internally they're coming from maybe she's probably not fulfilled in her own life and they project that feeling. So I hope she finds the healing that she needs, but I hope Emily, was it Emily, the bride's name?
Emily was the sister.
Oh, Emily's problematic. Okay. The bride and groom find their peace and yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ferris and Sloan fans, if you've been hooked on the drama that's racked up over 50 million views across platforms, you're not going to want to miss this. My new novel, Here Comes the Drama, a Ferris and Sloan story, is coming soon, and part one will be free exclusively for my newsletter subscribers. Ferris and Sloan thought their engagement would be the start of their happily ever after, but Ferris's overbearing mom, Kate, has other plans. From sabotaged wedding events to emotional manipulation, Kate's doing everything she can to tear them apart. It's heartfelt, it's chaotic, and it's your new obsession. Will Sloan and Ferris survive the wedding planning meltdown of the year? Or will the drama be too much for their love to handle? Tap the link in the show notes to sign up for their newsletter and be a part of the exclusive group that will get the first part free, plus first access to pre-orders for the full book. The drama is coming, and trust me, you'll want front row seats. Before we end here, I like to end on confessions. So on Instagram, they sent me their confessions every week. So I'm just going to read these and we'll just kind of react to them. First one says, my brother didn't show up to my wedding. He was giving me away. It hurts. That breaks my heart. That's terrible. Because I've heard of no shows when it comes to like guests or something, which that sucks too. But when it's your own brother, we're just talking about this, and you ask them to be a big part of the wedding.
Hey, that sucks. I don't even know what to say. Oh my God, that might really ruin my day. I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah, that's horrible. I'm really sorry. Hopefully, I don't even know how you would fix that
Go
because you
on.
can't take that back.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he had a darn good excuse. I don't know. Next one. My friend ended her 8-year relationship after getting pregnant with her 4-year long fling partner.
Huh?
Huh? So she was in a relationship, but then she had a 4-year fling during that really
There's no fling that's 4 years. That's a 3-year-old baby right there.
yeah,
That
that's
is
not a
not a
fling.
fling. You just have two relationships.
That's like an affair? Are they saying like a 4-year affair?
Yeah. I don't even know if that's a fair. You just have two families. I don't know. 4 years is too long for it to be.
What are you doing at that point?
The father of the baby was the other one instead of the 8-year one, and is that why, or we don't have any context?
I don't have, that's all I got sent. Yeah. And she put friends in quotations, so I'm guessing they're not close friends. I would guess maybe just acquaintances. When you hear those stories where someone had two families and they were like keeping one a secret, I'm like, how? I can barely maintain a job in one family.
I have a terrible poker face for me to do that. I can't do that. But I guess my question to you, actually, I don't know if you're comfortable responding to this one, but if you had a friend who has an 8-year friend relationship, but also has a side person for 4 years, would you tell that 8-year person?
So are they coming to me and I know they've been with someone for 8 years and they're like, hey, by the way, I've been with someone else for 4 years too? Or are they telling me in the beginning?
No, they just told you they've also had another relationship for 4 years.
I guess it would depend on my relationship with this friend. If it was like a really close friend, I would be like, dude, what are we doing here? This is not okay. Because all of my really close friends that I see regularly, I would consider all their husbands or partners like best friends of mine too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I could never look at them and know that that was happening and not say anything. But I also respect each relationship to be, I feel like you need to be the one to tell your partner, but I would be like, you need to do this.
yeah,
And then check in and be like, hey, how are things going with that? I can't say I've ever known of someone doing this that's coming right off the bat or like
yeah.
cheated and tried to balance two things where I'm like, hey, you gonna tell them? Because I don't know, maybe like college or something. I'm trying to think if there was anyone I knew of, but like,
No, I think it's the way I see it, and maybe I'm overthinking it. Okay. Tell me if I'm overthinking it. But the way I see it is like if somebody comes to me and I know they're in this 8-year relationship and they confess about this side person for 4 years, this person for me needs to be in like freaking CIA or something because I can never trust this person again, even for my own sake. I think it says a lot about their characters for me regardless of whether or not they were able, let's say even the 8-year person is like really bad to them. For me, if you haven't spoken and you haven't really said something to this person, I am big on loyalty. And so if you haven't done that, I can't trust that anything I've done or said to you or anything that I've shared with you is actually even a secret anymore. Because if you've betrayed somebody else like that, I don't feel like my relationship is safe with you. I take things maybe too extreme, and that's okay. You can tell me if
yeah.
I'm not. Like
Oh,
I just feel like right away I feel unsafe with this person and I need to dip.
when I share like more personal stories on here, I try to be really careful. So like if someone were listening, they wouldn't know. But I will say, and I'll say as generally as possible, someone that I know years ago, it came out that they were having an affair. And this is someone I'm not close with. It's more, I would say like acquaintance, right? I could not look at the same. The person already knew that they were being cheated on, the other person. And it still never, I will always look at them that way. I don't want to give details because obviously,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But I was just like so disgusted by this person's behavior. I could not look at them the same. And I hate to be like, I'm empathetic. I'm a very empathetic person.
yeah,
And I started crying for her because I was like, this
yeah,
is terrible. At the very least, tell someone you're not happy and say that, you know what, it's not working
yeah.
instead of crossing that line. And yeah, again, I won't give details of this, but I was so upset.
I think there's like I give people grace to a point where people make mistakes. Like there's mistakes and there's a lot of thought process that happened into it. Just like any other crime, there's just a lot of intention, there's a lot of driving, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of, oh, let me just take out my clothes. There's just so many spaces between where you were and what happened for there to be like any confusion of what your intent was.
Mhm.
I can be forgiving, but I think it's more if you've kept 4 years of a relationship hidden, you literally need to enlist to the CIA
Yeah.
because they need people like you.
Oh, yeah. If it were like a close friend of mine, I'd be like, do I even know you? What are we doing here? She just mentions getting pregnant with this 4 year fling. You would hope that her and the long term one don't have kids already because that adds a whole other layer. Because I've heard of
Yeah.
that happening and then they just like abandon the family with kids. And it's just like, come on, let's not do that. That was a crazy one. And then the last one says, I don't really want to be my best friend's maid of honor. I've seen this, not exact confession, but very similar the last few weeks, and it's different people. Like we
Mm.
literally just sent out an email this morning and it was very similar. What's your take on this? This person's afraid to say it to their friend.
I can tell which friend wanted to be a bridesmaid and which friend didn't, like on weddings all the time. And I'm like, why didn't you just say no to begin with? Like in the process, especially if they're booking maybe a partial package or whatever, I get to meet the bridesmaids. If I'm starting from the beginning of the planning process, obviously, like when they're picking them, I know the process, right? And I can tell right away. And I'm like, why didn't you just say no? Why didn't you say no? Because I know you're about to make my life a living hell. Because you're about to give me a headache and I can see it. And one time, there's a story. My business partner met the bridesmaids before I did. And so I had no context of who was who. So she met them. She just gave me a rundown and she warned me about one. I don't know which one it is.
Hmm.
And then months down the line, the bride comes and says, hey, by the way, one of my bridesmaids, I already knew was a problematic, like something was
Hmm.
ringing in me. She wants to have a specific makeup artist, and that makeup artist is the same makeup artist as the bride. And we already did the schedule. I'm talking weeks away from the wedding. And I was like, well, tough luck. I was like, I'm sorry, but we can't do anything about it. But the bride, she wanted her bridesmaids to feel really welcomed and she
Hmm.
wanted to do all that, right? I'm like, you're doing the most. Not only are you making your job harder, now we have to make sure that the makeup artist doesn't have any other clients. This is 2 weeks before the wedding. And now I have to rearrange the entire day schedule because one person decided this is the only makeup artist they're gonna go with 2 weeks before the wedding. It's not like they didn't know.
Right.
And the makeup artist was not happy that day. It was, I can tell like everything was off. And the thing is, like, you really didn't want to be here because you're making everything hard. You're making the whole process
He's
hard.
trying to make it more complicated.
Yeah. So you should have just said, hey, I can't do it. But because we want to say yes to everything, the people pleasing goes both ways, right? And this is most of the time what I hear is like, oh, she was a bridesmaid for my wedding, so I have to be a bridesmaid for her wedding.
Right.
It's almost like I have to return this favor, not because I want to, but because now I feel like I don't owe her anything. And
Yes.
you see that they're really struggling. Either financially, they're not able to do the things. Like some bridesmaids want to go to a different country for a wedding shower. Now they're struggling to pay for that and they push. And then what happens is because you have that resentment, you haven't really spoken and said, hey, I can't do it. So you've been just keeping score in your heart and be like, oh, I didn't make her do this for my wedding, but she's making me do this for my wedding. And
Hmm.
then you've already paid 2, 3 times the cost that she probably paid for your wedding. And now you're resentful. And at the end, that relationship is just like going sideways. If your best friend is getting married, and I've told my friends, by the way, they wanted me to be their bridesmaids, and I would tell them I would be helpful if I was running the show than me being a bridesmaid because I'm a control freak. If I'm a bridesmaid, I'm going to give you a hard time. And so I'm self aware. I'm self aware.
I love that.
So, and I'm like, I would rather be on your side in a different capacity than be a bridesmaid. And honesty will always, always go a long way than you bending backwards to please somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that because I've definitely been a part of weddings more so when I was like day of coordinator, but I've seen it as a bridesmaid as well. But a few years back, I was a day of coordinator for a wedding, and the groom's cousin, I think it was a cousin, but was asked to be a bridesmaid because I think it was just family. I don't know if the bride was close to her at all. Everything was a chore. Everything was a hassle from getting pictures to like we would all be like all dressed. We would be like, "Where'd she go?" And she would have a t-shirt or sweatshirt on. I'd be like, "No, you need to keep your dress on for photos." Oh, okay. She was a lot younger, so I don't know if that was part of it. But she would be like complaining. She's like, "Are we done yet?" I'd be like, "Nope, we got a few more pictures." Okay, do you want to get your makeup done? Everything was like a chore. And it was just like, you don't have to say yes. But I don't know if that was family also pushing her to be in it too. So,
And some people just don't have the financial capability of doing it. And that's something that you feel weird about because if you think about it, for women, like we're talking about a dress that maybe costs 120, 150 to 200, depending on the dress, shoes, earrings, if you're getting extensions, makeup, we're talking around 500 to the, like, I'm talking cheap. I've had bridesmaids that paid $500, $600 just for their hair.
Oh my gosh.
I promise you. So like it's a $2,000 to $3,000 expense that you're expecting. So that's why maybe either simplify when you're asking, even from the bride's perspective, simplify what you're asking your bridesmaids to do or understand their financial situation when you're asking them to do certain things. Because you have it or because you're ready to splurge 100 plus K on a wedding. Like I said, I'm talking about weddings I've seen and done literally 150 on a wedding.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
I know. I'm like, give it to me and let me make investment properties. Let me just
Yeah.
investment properties. But hey, 150K on a wedding, that's fine. But that doesn't mean your bridesmaids have that capability of supporting like a $5,000, $6,000 expense out of nowhere. That kind of expectation is also needs or cover their expenses to a certain level so that you want them to be comfortable to
Yeah.
show up for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Definitely being aware of like what people can afford or want to afford. And also the expectation on both sides, you don't have to say yes, but having that communication. Because that's the same with destination weddings. If you're invited, you don't have to say yes. There's such a boundary there. But I know I've kept you a long
No,
time. We're a little over. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It was so great reconnecting face to
thanks.
face. And we've come a long way from sharing our little office together.
Oh my gosh, the 45-minute drive from Naperville, like that's crazy for me. Now that I think about it, it feels like a long time ago. I'm so happy to reconnect with you and see you grow. Like I'm absolutely so, so proud of you, what the platform you're building. So thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I hope your viewers also enjoyed some of the insights that I had.
Yes,
Yeah.
therapist Bethy.
No, I'm gonna have to wear my glasses now
Yes,
every time.
I love it. Where can everyone follow you and find all of your amazing content?
Yeah, so on TikTok, I go by Bethy Creates. It's Bethy_creates. And my business page is K Blossom Events. You can find the Instagram page also is K Blossom Events for any events in Minneapolis or the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I'm actually coming to Chicago, by the way,
Oh,
to Naperville to do a wedding in fall. So we also travel all over the US for any of your events. But yeah, follow me on Bethy Creates. I do a lot of makeup and mindful conversations until I become a therapist for
yes.
sure.
Yes, that's next, right?
Yes, that's
There's
next.
no limit to what you can do.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.